Welcome to the Truckers and Nerds podcast, where we connect real-life truckers with freight tech companies to discuss technological innovations in the trucking industry. The Truckers and Nerds podcast is hosted by Tobenna CEO and founder of Cloud Trucks. This podcast is brought to you by Cloud Trucks.
Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of Truckers and Nerds. On this episode, we were able to catch up with Alyssa Correale, Head of Strategic Fleet Partnerships at UberFreight. We connected over the phone, so please forgive the audio quality. That said, I think this is a fantastic episode, and I hope you enjoy listening. We have Alyssa Correale, who is the Head of Strategic Partnerships at UberFreight. Alyssa, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Tobenna. Super happy to be here.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of just start off by learning a little bit about your background and how you came to lead strategic partnerships at UberFreight.
Yeah, I can dive right in. So my background has a lot of base in manufacturing. So I actually am part of a manufacturing business. So I've been part of the ground floor of picking, packing, and shipping and making ever since I was a little girl. So I think I learned to count by counting inventory of cases of spaghetti sauce in my family's manufacturing facility. So it's definitely in my blood to be part of the supply chain. And the vast majority of my professional career was on that quote-unquote shipper side of the table, with almost 10 years at Niagara Modeling, who is one of the largest shippers in North America, and just under 4 years at Miller Coors, with a couple of other opportunities that I partook in along the way as well. Both at Niagara and Molson Coors, very large shippers. A lot of my focus was around strategic partnerships. But of course, before that strategic opportunity, I spent a lot of time really learning the ins and outs of the business, with a number of years on the manufacturing floor at Niagara facilities, really understanding what it means to physically move goods about our country. So participating in warehouse operations, leading a team that was a 24/7 shipping, receiving group, and really understanding what are the pains that we go through, what are the opportunities to improve. And I've always been super passionate about leveraging partnerships, process, and definitely technology. So with that said, building on that, experience on the shipper side of the table, I got a really great opportunity to kind of marry all that together, and come to UberFreight and focus on how do we improve our industry on an even larger scale, which is what got me super excited. Is my days are comprised of talking to leaders of large fleets and leaders of smaller fleets, whether it's an owner-operator or a 5-truck fleet, to understand what are not only your strategic initiatives and goals, but what are you spending most of your time on that you really don't want to be spending time on. So, and with this opportunity here at UberFreight, I found that I unlocked such a larger percentage of the industry, and also lead the way of where we're going next.
We share something in common. My family also has a manufacturing business, and I also work on the production line. In our case, it's not spaghetti sauce; it's soap. So
cleaner. Nasty.
Yeah. So and actually that was the first thing that got me fascinated about the transportation sector. Seeing those first trucks coming in and putting the boxes of soap into these trucks, and then wondering what was happening next. Right? Where exactly were they going? How are these things being tracked? This was in Nigeria actually before I started college. So yeah, it's kind of nice seeing someone else who kind of came from that background and got fascinated by the industry by going through that.
Yeah, I now realize how challenging it was for those drivers of those 53-footers that were coming to our little tiny facility that we loaded with a hand jack, and trying to fit around those tiny corners in upstate New York where I grew up, it very much rings true. Of what drivers are experiencing today, right? And what we have to consider as we are attempting to streamline the industry and make improvements.
So you were talking about how being a part of UberFreight, you get to see a lot of innovation. I want to take a step back and talk about the founding of UberFreight. So I was wondering if you could give kind of a brief history of how UberFreight got to where it is today.
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, and it really is founded on our roots of the Uber that everyone knows and loves, right? Is the rides, where Uber sought to solve the challenge of matching a person who needed to get somewhere with someone that could bring them, and opening up that marketplace and making it extremely efficient. And it's certainly empowering what we call our earners, those drivers, to use this as a way to put food on the table and really support themselves, whether it's supplementally or their number one source of income for work. So really we were built on the foundation of the rides business and brought that mentality and that unbelievable ability to innovate to the freight industry. So Leo Ron, who is the leader of UberFreight, really had that strong vision and conviction that there is an opportunity to bring technology to this industry in a very, very big way. So we launched in 2017, and while there have been bumps along the road with carrying that fast forward tech and big trucks moving along the road, we have made leaps and bounds with how we've adapted the technology to really understand innately what's happening. So what I found, coming into this organization, is the really blinding passion around understanding what we need to be unblocking, at the same time keeping that 5-year, 10-year vision in our minds and in our plans. So we're not just slowly solving problems, but we're leading the charge with, okay, what can this look like in the future? So it's super cool to see such a tech-forward industry be able to adapt and bring the right people to collaborate in the room to match the industry challenges and along with what's possible from a tech perspective.
Yeah, no, that's great. There are kind of three key innovations with UberFreight that I've always been personally excited by, and it's this echoes what I've heard from a lot of drivers. The first is the transparency that it kind of brought to the industry. Just the fact that you go in an app and you can see all of the loads that are available. There isn't some secret list, or you don't have to be friends with a specific agent at the company or anything like that. The second is that pricing transparency. 5 years ago or something, most of the available in trucking, actually this is still the case today for a vast majority of loads, just didn't have a price attached to them. So you would see this load and then you need to call and negotiate, but as a driver you're actually at a disadvantage in this negotiation because you have no idea what the starting price is.
Yeah, I love those observations, and because that's what's so exciting about what we're doing and what we're continuing to do is that we want to be abundantly transparent in all of our actions, whether it is the pricing like you mentioned, or it's our interaction with the shipper or the receiver in resolving any issue with OS&D, whether it's detention, etc. So we're super focused on being transparent across the board because that just removes the waste and the frustration. And we want to be the easiest to work with, of course, for all the carriers and drivers that are on our network. I think that the pricing piece is something really great to highlight because of the level of effort and the expertise that Uber has put into this space within our functionality is tremendous. It's unmatched with what we're able to do from a pricing algorithm standpoint to be able to really reflect what's happening in the market, and that's back to transparency, right? We're reflecting what's happening in the market, and we're seeking to find the best match. This all kind of feeds together in just being, how can we be a better partner? And it's really around transparency, pulling out the waste, and also from a pricing standpoint, these drivers and carriers, they're moving loads to make money, right? So pricing is maybe the most important decision factor that they're leveraging and evaluating when they're looking at their partners and they're looking at available loads. So we know there are other attributes which we are working on surfacing that are super important, and that's hence why we spend so much time looking at facility ratings and things like that, and facility amenities, et cetera. But we know price is super critical. So I'm glad you highlighted that.
Yeah, so that's probably a perfect segue to your mission statements, right? So a mission statement is to help communities thrive by simplifying the movement of goods. Can you talk about that a little bit, and how what UberFreight is doing for shippers and carriers, but the community at large?
Yeah, I really do love this mission statement because it really touches every aspect of what we do and what we're trying to do. So trucking really is the heartbeat of our economy, and UberFreight is all in on supporting this industry, making sure it's moving efficiently, exposing any of the gaps that we have when it comes to like we talked about from a pricing perspective and transparency, et cetera. So we strongly believe that if we continue to keep this mission top of mind, and we drive towards supporting communities by not only the carriers that are earning wages on our network, but when you think about our shipper platform, and our small and medium-sized shippers that are able to access this democratized network of carriers and upfront pricing, we're just exposing the nuts and bolts to allow these shippers and these carriers to execute super efficiently. So, the small business person that wants to, grow, maybe they're soap manufacturing, they can leverage, UberFreight services, and we continue to expand our services, into the LTL space, and we'll continue to do that as we hear from our shippers that they're looking for more. So, really it's giving access to a super liquid source of capacity via our marketplace, and then also serving our shippers and our carriers by giving them really easy tools to work with, and a really great team that backs it up.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Well, you mentioned the LTL space, right, and the recent announcement of the move into the LTL space. Why is that important for UberFreight?
Yeah, so the LTL transition and expansion is super exciting for us. This space is really primed for innovation. So traditional LTL offerings are relatively clunky and a bit antiquated from a tech perspective, and backed by our shipper desires and their volumes that really fit this mold, and their desire to, again, be a provider that they can count on, they can trust, and that can have the same functionality and visibility with their LTL freight, just as they do with their full truckload freight. So it really stemmed from not only customer need, but our desire to impact additional modes within our marketplace. So we're really excited about this expansion and this partnership with Blue Grace to disrupt this portion of the industry, and we're super excited to see what's next in this arena.
Yeah, this reminds me a little bit of when Uber launched Uber Pool, and I want to say it was like 2014. I think I just moved to San Francisco And in some ways, LTL feels, different problems in a good number of ways, similar problem in some ways as well. So I can definitely see how there are some pretty big challenges there to solve.
Yeah, that's a great tie to the Uber pool. I wonder if it'd be fun if you had to class yourself or something like that, like LTL space.
yeah, definitely. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you face in your role and that the company faces as a whole these days?
Yeah, that's a great question. It all boils down to our carriers and their drivers ultimately, with the continued flux and volatility of our market, and how do we understand? We all understand this is how our industry works, right? It's extremely cyclical, and we're going to go through this no matter how hard we try not to. It's just part of our industry. And how does UberFreight position itself to ensure we are supporting our partners, specifically, I'm speaking right now from a carrier perspective, and ultimately driver perspective, to ride those waves with them and continue to drive to what are their innate needs, from, like I said, from a day-to-day perspective, but also from a strategic perspective, and how are they seeking to build their business over the years, and delivering on that, whether the market is tight or whether the market is soft. And we're doing that in a number of ways, certainly through technology, by continuing to build out our functionality in the app, in our web portal, in addition to our API, we work with you on the API side of things, to ensure that it's very easy to gain access to our freight. Good freight goes fast, good trucks go even faster. So how can we be that linchpin that brings it all together? That's really the biggest challenge is ensuring that we can, be that strong partner, whether things are tight or whether things are loose, and that we're always hearing from the carriers, always understanding what the next thing is for us to be iterating on to be able to meet their needs, and be their choice for a partner.
Speaking of the market being cyclical and going through these cycles, a question that people ask me all the time is, what was the effect of COVID on our business? And I go through different types of answers. Sometimes if I want to seem really smart, I talk about the industry numbers and kind of what's going on in the industry as a whole. But the true answer is I have no idea. We started the business in the middle of the pandemic. We launched our app in May of 2020. The pandemic was in full swing. But I'm curious, given that UberFreight has been around much longer than cloud trucks, what the effect was for your company and for your team.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I think everyone would agree with that, especially in our industry. One positive thing to highlight is I think everyone is a lot more cognizant about their supply chains and the importance of a truck with the supply chain than they ever were before. So at least we've got that in our back pocket. But it certainly was quite a wave that we rode along with everybody else in the industry, with demand just falling off, when everything first hit, and it flipped like a switch right overnight, a handful of months later. And we've seen a lot of change with our carrier base throughout that, when it comes to the difference between the owner-operator volume versus larger fleets, and how that's impacting larger fleet drivers. And some of them, we're hearing that a lot of them are moving into running their own business. So we're seeing a lot of newer carriers come join the platform. And for us, it's certainly been challenging to continue to understand the needs of our customers and our carriers in this sense. But what's been really nice to see is that our platform supports these drivers, whether they're running their own business or they're part of a large fleet. We've seen a lot of change in the way that our driver base interacts with us and what kind of freight they're moving and how the size of their organization. But it's also blossomed some really great partnerships like the Cloud Trucks, right? You're getting a lot of traction, and we're really eager to see how you continue to develop and understand again what your drivers are seeking, and how we can partner in a more strategic way. So it's definitely been a moving target, but for us as UberFreight, we feel really strongly that we've been able to serve our carriers, big and small, as drivers have moved around.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing I'm curious about, and I think our audience would be curious about, is just kind of what goes into the strategic decisions that a company like UberFreight makes, right? So first of all, like you mentioned, I think you mentioned that the company started operating in 2017, and right now it's definitely one of the largest one of the largest brokers, period, in the trucking industry. But then you announced the acquisition of Transplace. I know that's not closed yet, but it'll be interesting to understand kind of what goes into those types of decisions and why UberFreight decided to make this acquisition and what that means for the industry going forward.
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be completely frank, I know just about as much as you know. So, of course, our leadership team was deep in due diligence and working with the Transplace team and others on this deal. And like you mentioned, it's not closed yet, but we're super excited for what's ahead, to be honest with you. I found out, I think, the morning everyone else found out, and I was smiling ear to ear. Maybe it's because I have my shipper background, but in general, our entire organization is extremely excited about this partnership and this additional capability. Because again, it's driving towards that efficient marketplace of that perfect match of the right load for the right driver every time. So we know that it requires scale to do that, hence why UberFreight has scaled so quickly, and we continue to see success. So in general, I can say that I know that our leadership team sees an enormous value in combining our industry-leading carrier-facing experience and marketplace with Transplace's, industry-leading shipper-facing technology and processes. So they have built a very, very strong business over the years, and we can't wait to partner with them.
That's great, and I think that's another thing that's really interesting here is, in the case of Cloud Trucks, we focus on this business management software for the truck driver, but UberFreight has to kind of balance software for the carriers and making sure the carriers have a great experience, but also software for the shippers and making sure the shippers have a great experience. And it sounds like Transplace is kind of adding to that experience for the shippers and extending that value.
You nailed it.
All right. So, are there any other big initiatives or announcements that you have? I don't know if you want to break something here, but just wanted to see if there's anything that's that you're looking forward to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, if I wanted to, I could bring my 1-year-old in here and he'd definitely break something. I don't think I'll be breaking anything. However, I want to express how insanely excited I am about our future and what we're building right now. Again, I came from the shipper background, dabbled in tech, absolutely, but nothing like this at UberFreight. So I have been super lucky to get exposed to our product team, our data science team, our research team, et cetera. So that is our beacon, our tools, and what they're seeking next.
That's great. I think that is a perfect place to end things. Alyssa, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been great. And I'm also looking forward to more and more technology and solutions coming from the UberFreight team.
Thank you again. It's a pleasure to be here.